Welcome to part number 22 of Midtown Menace 3, and in this part we'll be taking a look at the first 5 DLC Blitz races in Washington, D.C. And in this part, whereas like the last part I strictly used the NASCAR, in this part I will be strictly using the Formula 1 car. Or the whatever it's supposed to look like specifically of a Formula car. Probably Formula 1. Yet it still sounds like a Koenigsegg. And it still goes like a Koenigsegg. Because that makes sense.
Yeah. Probably they're both using the same V8.
Probably. Yeah. So yeah, anyways, when I left off in the last part, I was talking about how, you know, the PS2 board, the PS2 case I had for a temporary replacement PS2 was so bad it chopped off two little chips that's supposed to turn on the power on the Slim.
That sounds like it was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, so basically because of that, I chucked that old PS2 away, and I just traded another thing I didn't use anymore, which I actually kind of regret, that one particularly, but, you know, it did get me a temporary replacement PS2 Slim, and that one worked pretty well. The person took a lot better care of it, no screws were missing, it was clean, and it worked pretty well. No, there wasn't any serious issues. At least it was until I decided maybe I wanted to get a chip in it. We had bought a thing that had a chip, and basically my friend tried to set it up, and he aborted it because one solder wire connectors are so small, and he didn't want to risk making any bad damage, and basically, yeah. But he did do one job, which was taking the lower part of the case away and putting a bottom case from a Silver Slim. And I get the feeling that the way that was set up might have caused the disc stuff to cause certain games to not want to read properly.
That sounds like a strange thing to have happen.
I don't know if that was the case or if the laser was just bad to begin with. I have no idea.
Sounds like it would be a laser issue, as I think a few pieces of plastic wouldn't prevent a game from running. Well,
yeah,
at least
probably.
Pieces of plastic like that.
So then eventually, again, I sold off another thing. A few months later, and I got another PlayStation 2 Slim. This one was a little special, though. It was kind of interesting. It was a blue PlayStation 2 Slim, and no, it was not factory done. It was custom painted blue. It looked really nice, actually. I think I might still have pictures of it lying around. It looked really nice, though. It was very well done. And it had a mod chip installed into it, so I could play all my backups, of which case most of the backups I own are games that I already own, so yes, they're legal.
Jesus, remind me to ask you how the hell you properly burn those, because I keep having trouble with my burns. It's like, the game will work about 90% of the way correctly, but it'll take a little bit longer to load for some things, and the music will occasionally cause a slowdown.
It could just depend on the burning software you use, the burning speed, and the disc itself. But yeah, basically, so I used that, and then with that PS2 came another problem. This time, though, it was a problem that was easily fixed. And this wasn't a particular problem with just that PS2, because a lot of PS2 Slims these days are having this problem because, you know, the plastic ages, and it's just generally weaker because it's aging. Basically, some of the earlier PlayStation 2 Slims, I'm not sure when they decided to get rid of it. I think when they realized that it was causing problems. I think the later PS2 Slims, including the last one, got rid of that particular sensor. But there's a sensor inside the system which you have to open up to get access to. And I imagine they mostly did that to, you know, try to stop some piracy stuff, which, you know, makes sense. The only problem is that when the plastic ages, when the lid closes down, it got weak to the point where it would fail to detect the sensor being pressed down correctly. So essentially, when you try to close it, and nothing would happen. It wouldn't try to read the disc. So what you have to do is you got to open the console up, and all you got to do is just tape that sensor down, put it back together, and then now it'll just read all your games with no problem. Because since that sensor is now permanently taped down, you don't even have to worry about it. And I thought, I just drive into the water there for amusement.
I can't imagine that's very good for Formula 1 cars.
No, it's not. But I thought it'd be amusing.
Well, I mean, your license plate's kind of relevant for that.
Yeah, I didn't change that from the last time I played the game, so...
Yeah,
it
no fucks were given.
It will be changed next in part 24, which is when the checkpoint races start. Basically, though, so we did that, and you know, I used it for a while. It worked pretty well. I think the mod chip wasn't soldered on the best because sometimes it wouldn't read the discs correctly. Sometimes it was fine, and other times boot red screen of quote unquote death, even though it's not really. And basically, you know, that got irritating. And the thing was, the old PS2 that had the controller bay port ripped where it couldn't be plugged back in anymore, that was still lying around at my friend's place, and it still had the old chip on it. So what I eventually decided to do was I saved up a little bit of money, and I had bought an old PS2 from a game store, and it was in fairly great condition. It actually is in pretty good condition still, and it was the same model as the one that my old one was, so it would probably work. And also, you're supposed to basically turn to get to that checkpoint, which I guess the whole idea is your car does a loop at the end, but doing this loop is a pain in the ass to begin with anyways, because of that goddamn camera it always switches to by default.
Thanks for the show.
There's a reason why I like the first-person cameras in Forza when you're playing on the Hot Wheels expansion pack.
Yeah.
Because if you just try and go and do some of the loops and stunts, it just spazzes out and doesn't like you.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Trackmania. You go and play some of those tracks where the camera will automatically switch over to being the bumper cam instead of behind driver, because that game's kind of screwed with the camera as well.
Right. But, so yeah, basically though, what I decided, so I still had the board lying around, and I had the PS2, and I went on a forum called the ISO Zone, and I showed off the board. I was looking, would anyone know how to desolder this chip from the old board and put it on the new board so I can play my backups and any imports again? And I found someone who was from Toronto, so very close to where I live, who would do it for a pretty good price, and he was very good with progress. He showed a lot of pictures and videos. And he did it in an interesting way. In the old method, it was basically parts of the solder wire was taped down, but on the way he did it is he actually used hot glue to glue them down, and that doesn't damage the board in any way. So
interesting idea. What's up, Zero?
So basically, he did that, and I got it back, and it now plays every PS2 game I ever thrown it, like 100% of the time. It doesn't seem to like working in PS1 mode like it used to on the old console. That one tended to read them fairly fine. This one, for whatever reason, tends to complain a lot about it, but that's fine because I just usually stick to emulation for PS1 nowadays anyway. So
yeah, I'll be back in a little bit.
Okay.
Oh then.
Yep. So yeah, that's covered mostly 2 parts, but that's kind of the story of my PlayStation 2.
It sounds like it's lived quite an exciting life.
Yes.
I
do still want to get another PlayStation 2 with a chip at some point. I want to get the lighter fat models, the 50,001 model as it's called, because those read games a lot quicker. And I kind of would prefer that. And it's also quieter too, quieter fan. Yep. That's enough of my PS2 stories. Next part, I probably won't be talking about it unless LRC decides to bring it up again. So stay tuned for the next part, and as always, guys, you can check out all my links in the description down below, including my Twitter, Twitch, my Patreon, my forum boards, and submitting clips to the highlight reel. And as always, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.
Noodles.
They're delicious.
Yes.